My name is Betty Seifu, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Movable Inc. I am very, very excited to be joined today by the wonderful Molly Gabrielson and Kristen Cortez, so let's please introduce them.
Manager on the studio team focused on all of our platform-wide features.
And I'm Kristen Cortez, Lead Product Manager for both Studio and DaVinci, and I focus on all of our reporting capabilities across both platforms.
We are so excited to be joined with you all today to talk about how we're helping many of you guys overcome your common content personalization bottlenecks. And speaking of those bottlenecks, look, I get it. I'm a marketer myself. I understand that personalizing content at scale is hard. It really is. I mean, if you're looking at this on the screen right here, how many of you guys think this looks familiar, right? Yep. And if you're familiar with it, then you know that getting this out the door is difficult. I mean, it takes a marketer anywhere from 1 to 6 hours to create each piece of content for a particular campaign. And if we think about that for a second and just like let that sink in, let's say you have 5 campaigns actively running, right? And each of those 5 campaigns has 5 different audiences. And then for those 5 different audiences, you want 5 different content variations. I'll save you the math, we're all post-lunch. That's about 750 hours of work. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And that's why we end up with stats like this one. Pretty shocking that only 35% of marketers believe that they have enough content to successfully engage with their customers. And that right there tells us that traditional approaches do not work. But that's exactly why Studio exists. Studio's entire goal is to make sure that we're giving brands like you guys the content you need, the hyper-personalized one-to-one experiences you need and each and every one of your customers deserves from you. And our goal in particular, Molly, Kristen, and I, is to make sure we're making that as easy as possible for you. And so that's why we can't wait to show you what we've been up to and how Studio changes the game for content personalization. So let's start with our next step. So the first thing we saw this morning, right, was the product keynote, and that was incredible. And if you remember the product keynote, I know that this is this morning, but you'll remember in the roadmap, all of this starts with tactics. And when I think of tactics, the first thing I think about is what's gonna actually make my customers wanna engage with my content and take action, right? So, Molly, please help us out here. What do we have to help marketers get inspired and get started?
Absolutely. So we all know that the Studio product is incredibly powerful. That's why some of you are here today. You are at Think Summit to find use cases and get inspired. We hear often questions asked like, what am I missing out on? I have access to all this data. What can I be doing with it, with Movable Inc? And Tactics sets out to answer that question. So starting on the homepage, you will now start to see Tactics as we roll this out. And this is in addition to the campaigns and the campaign templates that you're currently creating. So let's start at the beginning of the workflow with the Tactics Gallery. You've seen these images today. The Tactics Gallery is where you're going to learn what Movable Inc offers. Think about what data you have access to, what your goals are, what channel your team owns, and you'll be able to filter this page, search this page, slice and dice, and see different options. So what's going to show up in this gallery? A lot of the different use cases you all showed us this week, we were all very inspired, are all things that might show up in the Tactics Gallery. This is new features as well. So in addition to the amazing use cases you're showing us, we're going to roll out new tactics, new items here that you maybe haven't done before, so you can kind of get inspired here. Examples include personalized product grid, live polling, live offers, loyalty progress visualizations. And this is on the roadmap. Our first tactic is in the works. It is in development. We have an early access kicking off this summer with a select group of clients. And from there, our roadmap is going to reflect new tactics release by release. So back to choosing our tactic. You are going to want to learn more, obviously, when you're on this page. So how are you going to do that? Clicking into any tactic pulls up some more information. You'll have a brief description, features that you can layer on top of the tactics workflow, data requirements. Not only do the options that Movable Inc offers in terms of data, but also specific attributes that you're going to need to send us to set you up for success with this workflow. And inspo. This is where you can pull this up with your creative team, sit down and say, here's what we're thinking. Here's what Movable Inc does. And we need a section in the email that's going to do this amazing personalized thing and kind of have visuals to go along with it. And lastly, layouts. Do you want a top banner? Do you want a CTA? What is this going to really look like, and how is the message going to get sent in the email?
I love this. I love this experience, guys. For me, the way I'm understanding tactics, right, is it's a faster, guided experience for creating and deploying my favorite movable ink use cases. Perfect. But Molly, could you actually show us the creation of tactic?
Yes. So you all saw the live demo this morning with in-app messaging. We're going to walk through an email example of this right now in detail. So you're going to first name your tactic. We just launched off into creating a tactic workflow, and this is incredibly intuitive process. There are 3 simple steps for creating every tactic, starting with configuration, content, and then of course previewing your content before it goes out. So in configuration, you're going to name your tactic, select a data source from options that are available to you, and then select your layout. In this example, we're creating a abandoned cart grid of products with a top banner. So we're selecting this layout here at the bottom. And now let's design our tactic. On the right-hand side, you can see that we are editing a grid of products. So soak this in for a second. This is familiar. This is what the platform looks like today, but it's elevated. We have a grid of products, and the waterfall logic for this product grid is elevated from the apps. It's listed here so you can select abandoned cart, recently viewed, category URL. What we're doing is actually editing all of the items in the grid at one time. We've heard so much feedback that you are going into Studio Designer and pixel pushing. You're setting up logic multiple times. You are updating your fonts multiple times. So we heard your feedback, and we're offering a new capability to edit all of the items in the grid together. This is going to save you a lot of time. So not only is there new features here, we're also taking the existing powerful features in Studio Designer and just elevating them into this clean user experience. So you can learn what's possible on this page and stay hands-on in the whole process if you're interested in getting involved. Now let's preview our content. You're going to set up simulations. What are consumers experiencing? In this example, we did an abandoned cart, so you can test that with a unique user and see what they would see. And send proof emails out. You want to close that feedback loop early and often in this tactics workflow. And lastly, when you choose to publish, you are creating your first tactic version. You heard me correctly. Version is a new concept for the Studio platform, and it is going to allow you to make very distinct changes and publish them over time and see a history of all of the versions. You can name your version, and we're going to dive into what it looks like after you've been publishing things a little bit and show you some examples. But first, how do you get this tactic out into the wild? You'll see the primary CTA here, create deployment. You're going to name your deployment, something that makes sense for your team and your ESP or MSP that you'll be able to reference in the future in your reporting. Create your deployment, and you will see your code needed to embed movable ink content everywhere you plan to do that. And not only now do you have a version history of all the times that you've edited your content, but you'll see a deployment history here. Every time you sent this thing with the associated metrics.
And speaking of metrics, we all know how important it is for marketers to get that reassurance that everything went out as expected after a go live. We're all probably familiar with that exciting yet slightly nerve-wracking feeling of starting to see those numbers come in so that you know your content is officially out in the world. That's why, as a part of tactic deployments, we're including things like impressions and clicks all in real time.
That's a really great point, Kristen. And I love this guided experience because between all of us here, I'm a very anxious person. So something like this, step by step, just ensures that, I'm successfully creating content. I'm not missing anything. But Molly, since I'm so anxious, I've got to know. You mentioned deployments. Well, okay, what if I create a deployment, I get an embed code, and someone has a last minute change, because that always seems to happen. What do I do if I'm scared to make a change that affects my whole email list? Do I just make the edits and hope for the best?
No worries, Betty. With versioning, you can now make changes. This is the magic of Movable Ink, right? That your embed code is already out in the wild and you can go in and you can tweak things. But now, you have a level of confidence added here. With versions, you will see here how you have an unpublished version there. It's because you've made edits and your edits are saved in a draft state. Now you can choose to publish them, and when you do, you are now updating the live send. This allows you to send off your draft essentially to your team, to your boss, take a look, we're tweaking things, this thing is live, we want to get your eyes on it before we send it out. This is just confidence inducing for your team so that you can make sure that the right changes are sent out at the right time.
That's perfect. I love that. That's exactly what someone like me definitely needs, and I'm sure there's many of you guys that could relate to me. That's perfect. So back to you, Kristen. Okay. So now that we've, our product grid tactic is out in the wild, some time has gone by, how do I actually know if it's performing well, if it's actually setting out to, achieve the goals that my team wanted?
Great question, Betty. So on that same tactics overview tab, under the version history that Molly just mentioned, you're now going to be able to see how this specific tactic performed over time. We're creating more out-of-the-box self-service components in Studio to make it easy for you to get the reporting you need. And these will be embedded directly within tactics detail pages, so that means more contextual reporting, less needing to click around to a bunch of different places in the platform to get answers to your questions. With this data viz, you're able to view different metrics by different time frames, all within the drop-down menus here. But, Betty, we know that reporting isn't one size fits all for every marketer and every organization. That's why in our new Studio workflow, we're creating actionable tactic insights. Okay, bit of a mouthful. What exactly does all that mean? Well, let's take a look. When we click over to the next tab called Tactic Insights, I'm now able to see all of the conversions and revenue attributed with each product that was displayed in the grid. So here I noticed that hiking boots were actually my highest converting product. I happen to be from Denver, and it's officially hiking season, so I'm extra excited about that one. And taking it a step further, pun intended, an insight over on the right tells us that tactics using this data source actually received a 12% higher click-through rate. Pretty cool, right, Betty?
Yeah, cool doesn't even begin to cover it. But tactics performance, before I go on, first of all, I have to say, I think that's really cool also how it adapts to show me the metrics that make the most sense for each tactic. But tactics performance is only one piece of content performance, right? How about we looking at other performance metrics? How would we do that?
Of course. So let's hop over to Analytics Explorer to gain some more program-level insights. When I click this Explore More CTA, I'm taken to our new self-service reporting tool called Analytics Explorer that you all saw in this morning's product keynote. From this starting view, I can then create custom data visualizations based on any metrics and dimensions that I want. So Betty, as a marketer, what are some metrics that you and your team rely on to measure content performance?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For us personally, we really love to look at conversions and revenue. Is there a quick way for me to track and build that with the Analytics Explorer?
Yes, there is. So if you select revenue from the drop-down menu here, and then click Generate, you're now able to see your results in seconds. Not only can you create these quickly, but you can then create a saved view, so that means next time you visit this page, you're able to see these same parameters. Saves you so much time instead of always having to start from scratch.
I definitely agree. I love a saved view. I have that set up on a lot of my favorite mobile apps. Perfect, great. So I have one more question before we move on. With tactics performance, we were able to play with the date ranges, right? Are we allowed to do that with the Analytics Explorer, or are there restrictions there?
No restrictions, so you can select from our preset date ranges or select the custom option down on the bottom. We've heard from marketers that sometimes they have reporting needs that don't quite fit into our presets, which is why we've added the custom option here. You also have the ability to visualize data in a variety of formats. So if you're someone who prefers line graphs, bar charts, pie charts, we've got you covered. You can take a look at what an example looks like here of a pie chart, especially if you want to compare the performance of your tactics across your programs.
I think this is really great, Kristen. You know what I really love about the Analytics Explorer the most is the fact that you're able to tailor it to what makes the most sense for your organization, right? Because everybody has different reporting needs. Everyone has a different objective. Everybody has a different number that they're looking to track and a different bottom line. I know here at Movable Inc., for example, I know that I have colleagues that care more about certain metrics more than others, and they like to view those metrics in different formats than others. People can be picky.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So that's why we're also creating saved views. So how I can create a save view is I click the top button, simply enter into a name, and hit save. Because just as you said, Betty, when it comes to reporting, everyone cares about something different. That's why we're adding an option here to either create private or shared views. So now I've got my tactics by week view saved up at the top so that me and my teammates can all focus on the metrics that matter most to us. Analytics Explorer is now live, and I know you all can't wait to get your hands on it, but it doesn't stop quite there. This isn't the only improvement we're making to studio reporting. We're also in the early stages of a concept called Performance Hub. It's going to be available in an early access program this coming fall. What do you all think about jumping in and taking a sneak peek?
Yeah.
Ooh, all right, let's do it. So when I click from the main nav, I'm going to see a new option called Performance Hub. When I land here, I'm able to see a number of key reporting features in a single view, including those same actionable tactic insights that we reviewed earlier. There's my abandoned cart data source insight again, making it easier for us to focus on the content rather than spending hours digging into different spreadsheets or painstakingly putting together those last-minute slides for your upcoming leadership meeting. I know we've all been there, it's okay, we can admit it. We also have our AI-powered report recommender that uses natural language processing to understand your common reporting questions and match you with the most suitable Movable Ink report. So Betty, bringing it back to you again, what are common questions that you hear about content performance?
Yeah, our clients, and I would say marketers in general, are dying to figure out how can they tie revenue back to content? So as in, which content is driving the most revenue?
All right, well, let's do it. You can type in your question here, and then when you click Explore, you're now going to be matched with a report that shows you your highest revenue generating content. And that includes a helpful description as well as the exact data points that are going to be included in your report. Eliminates so much guesswork.
That's perfect. I love this. You know, when I look at this, I think this is too easy, too intuitive, and perfect. And it's also really great for marketers like myself that get headaches trying to build and navigate complex reports. And when I'm looking at this Performance Hub, something else actually came to mind. I think that this is like a great centralized view because what it really is all of these great reporting functionalities that Studio offers aggregated in a single view. But what's great about this single view is I could also pull this up if I was, you know, a marketer in an executive meeting and I have to show all of the executive team this.
Exactly. We think an executive dashboard like this will be a game changer, and we're just in the early stages of concepting. So if anyone out there in the audience today has ideas and wants to help us bring this to life, please meet us out in the lobby after the session to chat more about it.
Perfect. Okay, so now that our marketers have a wealth of actionable insights at their disposal, they can go back to their teams, they can come up with a data-driven plan on how to move that needle, right? And speaking of moving that needle, Molly, I'm gonna bring it back to you. How about we edit and redeploy our product grid tactic based on the insights that we just learned from all the reporting features we walked through?
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's the power of insights, right? To lead to action. And so let's say we were in Analytics Explorer, and we learned that every time we have a dedicated CTA, there's a significantly higher click-through rate, and you just want to go back into our example before and add it. So you're going to edit your tactic, and you'll land back here in the workflow, and we're going to change our layout. So now I'm adding one that has a dedicated CTA at the bottom with its own click-through link. We'll design it, so we'll pop into the next step. We'll be in Studio Designer, our branded fonts and colors will be in there. We'll create a CTA that makes sense for our business, add a click-through link quickly, and then when we've published this, you now can see a preview here of the full tactic with the update that I made. I can name my version View Cart CTA, and that is not all. I can also look at performance associated with that version. So now I can say when I added that CTA to my entire tactic, did it drive the performance that I thought it did? And really take a look and dig into the details there. So this is really the power of tactics.
And just like that, we've completely come full circle. And the best part, this does not take you the hours of work that we started this presentation talking about. Movable Ink Studio empowers you to create an unlimited variation of personalized content exponentially faster. So, guys, what is the new Movable Ink Studio workflow? We're giving you a guided experience for designing real-time content. We've added a variety of new reporting features that help you take your content to the next level. And equipped with those features, you have what it takes to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your marketing programs. Couple of quick things as we wrap up here as far as, what to do, I want to know more, what's next, no problem. First things first, I know we're wrapping up here, but please don't be shy. You guys can talk to us out in the lobby. We'd love to answer any questions and continue the conversation. And we just presented a ton of roadmap items, which means we've got tons of EA programs, early access, available now and coming up soon. So please talk to us or your client experience manager on how you can participate. And the most immediate next thing you can do is if you are very interested in, well, what's going on with mobile? This was all email driven. No worries. Hop over to the next room if you want to learn more about that next. Thank you guys so, so much.